Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. This is live stream number 1110. If you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I'll usually pontificate about something related to our hobby. And tonight we are actually going to discuss the Year Zero engine, which powers many of the Free League publishing role-playing games. And interestingly enough, we are starting to see a number of third-party content creators adopt the Year Zero engine for their games too. So that is going to be our topic for tonight. Yes. But of course, like I said, super casual. We're certainly not engaged in anything along the lines of rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Just hanging out, having some fun. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 whole minutes before you can take part in chat. I know for the TikTok crowd, that's like, oh, that's too long. I'm out of here. Fuck this guy. I'm leaving. 10 minutes. 10 minutes before I can call him out on his bullshit? No way. Anyway, if you are a subscriber and you have been for at least 10 whole minutes and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in and I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D. Yes, she is probably the only chat moderator hanging around at the moment, maybe all night. All depends on if we see Flaming Huron popping on into chat, because we know our good friend of the show, the Madman. It is Wednesday. It is his gaming night. So if I remember correctly, I think he said they were playing 5e tonight. I think he mentioned that in chat last night. So Sarah D is emerged from the shadows, but she is wielding her glittery banhammer. So it doesn't mean that you can misbehave. Still got to be nice to your fellow chatters. Speaking of fellow chatters, we also have Willona's Cave, Testy Trekkie, W Forge, First Level DM role-playing games, who I believe this is a first-time visit in chat. Semper Buffo's also here, as is Sean O'Donnell. Very nice. Very nice. Sean O'Donnell asked, was that a Burgess Meredith impression? It may have been. I was not trying to, though. Come on, Rocky. Come on, Rock. Rock, you got to rock. Nah, see, it's on that. And it's a good thing there's a leveler on this, right? Otherwise, it'd be like, he's screaming at us. Oh. Lena's Cave says they love the Year Zero engine open license. I got to be honest, I haven't really taken too hard a look at their third-party content. So I guess Wallona's Cave is working on a game that's going to use YZE. W Forge points out Mongoose acquired Twilight 2000, but are going to let Freely continue with the license. Yes, we talked about that last week. They also got the 2300 AD, which the reality is, I think I pointed out, I knew about that deal, but I couldn't say anything. Sorry. I take embargoes or when people tell me, hey, you know what, this is off the record, I take that to heart. You know what? To me, the clicks, the views, shit like that, just not important enough for me to screw over somebody who asks me, you know. Although I will point out, there was one time, I think it was Free League Publishing, had I want to say there was an embargo on one of their releases, and I did not know. I hadn't seen the email for it. It was something that had just popped in, right? So I shared the video. Thankfully, it was only a few days early, and my contact at Free League Publishing was like, yeah, it's okay, Jeff. She was like, we know you're a good egg. You're okay. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. It's the only time I've ever violated an embargo or shared something that someone asked me to keep under my hat, so to speak, right? Anyway, so Sean O'Donnell says, the Madman's playing 5e or Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Yeah, you know what? Maybe it was Pathfinder he'd mentioned. I don't know. I do not know. Sean O'Donnell says, you kept a better lid on that than the inside of the Roll for Combat book. Okay, so the Kickstarter's over, right? So now I can reveal something. I don't think Steven from Roll for Combat would mind if I tell you this, because the Kickstarter is over. This isn't really the book. It's just the front cover and the back cover. This is actually Eldamon, I think, if I remember right. Let me look inside. Oh, no, it's Battle Zoo Bestiary. So I've been yanking your chains for over a month when I've been going, oh, yeah, oh, quick look inside. See, it was funny because I actually even have the little Post-it note that Steven had put on the book when he sent it to me. And it says, this book is fake, only used for promotional purposes, only show the cover. So he did tell me not to show the interiors of the book. So I wasn't lying. It just wasn't the Elder Storm Kickstarter book. That's all. That's all. Tony Urquides and Kathy Evans, as well as John Muscola, are with us in chat. So looks like chat is off and running already. So let's get started with the news tonight, because now available from my friends over at GMT Games is Red Dust Rebellion. And I've got the skinny on volume 12 in the Coin series. 200 years of Earth rule, 200 years of being told what to do by people on some distant blue orb in the sky, a pampered planet populated by soft people. Earth politicians playing golf on a sunny day while sipping French champagne and eating grapes dare to tell us how to live. They don't know us because they are not us. We're the sons and daughters of Mars, the children of the red planet. We were born in the red dust, and we say no more to Earther rule. Aroa Thompson, Red Dust spokesperson and mining union organizer. It is 2250, and the bicentennial celebrations of the first human colony on Mars are about to begin. 200 years of human achievement, but also 200 years of hardship. Mars is an unforgiving world, a barren wasteland on the surface. Therefore, the people live in vast underground cities known as labyrinths. Over the years, the people of Mars have formed their own culture and identity and want more say in their own rule. To many, Earth is a remote world with too much control over Martian affairs. Furthermore, Earth's corporations have too much power over life and death. Some long for a green Mars covered in oceans and life, while others recoil at the idea that humanity will destroy the climate of another planet. Red Dust Rebellion is volume 12 of GMT's acclaimed Coin series and tells the story of the Martian revolts of the 2250s and the rise of Martian nationalism. Red Dust Rebellion is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 2 to 4 hours, and does carry an MSRP of $95. Very interesting. This is the first science fiction title in the Coin series. Every other Coin release has been based on real history. This is the first time we see something a little bit different. And I should also mention, I have a copy of Red Dust Rebellion. In fact, I was going to shoot the unboxing video today, but real life got in the way. So I have not had an opportunity to crack this open, but I will have an unboxing video up this weekend. And I'll tell you right now, this box has serious heft. So that is very cool. I am kind of curious about the complexity of this because I would have thought this would have been a lower complexity coin game. Maybe a la Cuba Libre, which I really like. Actually, to be honest, that's my favorite of the coin games because it is rather easy to jump into. And it's got a relatively smaller footprint than most of the coin games. It's not. It is a medium complexity. So it's like the 5 out of 9 from GMT Games, which I always talk about how GMT Games complexity level is a little bit higher than you would think. I always say if it says it's a 5, it's really a 6 and so on. And it's got extremely high solitaire suitability. Very cool. In fact, I think inside here is a book with the kind of like bot, or bots, I should say, for the other factions. So very cool. I am very intrigued by this because I think you've got corporations, then you've got the Earth government, then you have probably the Martian government, and then maybe like the Martian workers sort of thing. I don't know, but I shall find out. So stay tuned. I will have that unboxing very, very soon. Pete Strakolich and Roger Perdome have joined us in chat. Sean O'Donnell's saying they're never going to trust me again because of this not really being Elemental Storm. Oh, come on. You'll get over it. You'll get over it. Let's talk about some miniatures rules. Well, I take that back. Let's talk about some fluff for a miniatures game, because now available from one-page rules is the Age of Fantasy World Book, and I've got the skinny on the supplement. Age of Fantasy is a story set in a dark, magical world where new realms struggle to survive over the ashes of old empires. This is a world filled with epic conflicts, mighty heroes, and daring adventurers, where factions face off in a battle for supremacy. This world book gives you everything you need to know about the Age of Fantasy universe, its people, locations, conflicts, and more, and serves as the ultimate guide to the setting. Those interested to learn more about Tyria will have lots to discover in this book. Here's just a quick breakdown of what fans can expect to find. There's the history of Tyria, from its prehistoric past up through the Havoc Wars and the creation of the Rift into present day. Information on societies in the setting, touching on everything from transportation to technology. The role of the planes in the setting, including an infinite array of worlds centered around the Nexus plane. Beautiful artwork on almost every page, including some factions never before depicted by one-page rules. New short stories and flash fiction throughout the book, which depicts life on and off the battlefield, interior, and more. Now, keep in mind, this is a lore book, thus I said, fluff, and it's about the Age of Fantasy universe. It contains absolutely no game or rules content. The 64-page PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $15. So a few things here. Number one-page rules. They're Age of Fantasy, just the rules themselves fit on one page, front and back. So it's really 2 pages, but it's one piece of paper. And they're free. Now, there are some various different Age of Fantasy books out there and PDFs out there. I think they've got one version is skirmish rules, and then another, I think, is more for mass battles. But they also, I believe, have a Patreon that you can join, which will give you the print files for various different miniatures. I think they do 2 miniatures a month. I think that's one-page rules. I might be completely off base with that, but I could have swore I remember seeing that. So kind of cool, kind of interesting. I will point out, yes, I think $15 for a 64-page PDF is pricey, but they got a lot of stuff that's free over their website. So I guess it kind of makes up for that. All righty. Ellen Rowe is with us. Welcome. Good to see you. Let's move on to some role-playing game news, because Atlas Games has teamed with Bundle of Holding to offer a money-saving deal on Unknown Armies 3rd edition. And of course, I've got deets on that deal. Adept, this all-new Unknown Armies 3rd edition bundle presents, well, you guessed it, Unknown Armies, the 2016 3rd edition of the acclaimed Atlas Games tabletop role-playing game about broken people risking everything to change the world. Reality, as we know, is shaped by a group of 333 people so dedicated to certain attributes that they become the archetypes of the invisible clergy who are locked in an eternal struggle for power. Your characters are pawns in this power struggle, and you're hoping to join the ranks of the clergy itself. You might struggle against the New Inquisition, the sect of the Naked Goddess, or your own deteriorating sanity. You might face vampires, godwalkers, or fellow practitioners of magic against unrelenting opposition. Will you win, though? Created by Greg Stoltz and John Tynes, Unknown Armies is a game of postmodern occult intrigue, transcendental horror, and furious action. It's about driven characters who gain the power to alter reality until it aligns with their fevered desires, about obsession and identity, about revealing the horrible truth we don't want to see and claiming that truth for yourself. It's about being relentlessly, hopelessly human. For just $7.95, you'll get all 5 titles in the starter collection, which has a retail value of $35, as DRM-free PDFs or MP3 music tracks, including the first rule book, Book 1, Play, with all the rules for players, plus the introductory scenario, Maria, in 3 parts, and 3 sets of ambient music tracks composed by James Semple. Upsetting anomalies, unnatural artistry, and uncanny acuity. And if you pay more than the current threshold price, well, at least as of this afternoon, of $20.14, you'll level up and also get the entire complete collection with 12 more titles worth an additional $64, including 4 more rule books. Book 2, Run, Book 3, Reveal, and Book 4, Expose, or maybe it's supposed to be just Expose. And Book 5, Mine. I don't know if it's like mining or mine. Give me that. Along with the full-length scenario, Bring Me the Head of the Comte de Saint-Germain, and 7 campaign starter kits, Derby Girls Destroy DC, Heroin Highway, Karmic Ties and Fifth Wheels, Raiders of the Lost Mart, Sacred Pharma, Violence Inherent in the System, and Young Practicals. These savings will run through October 28th, and 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to the American Red Cross, which of course is working to bring relief to Western North Carolina after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. I will be the first to point out, I do not know what Unknown Armies is like. I have heard of it. I have heard it's got a pretty rabid fan base. I don't think it's got a very large fan base, and I don't know how well supported it still is by Atlas Games. That I do not know. But if you are in the mood to check out something new for your urban fantasy / horror needs, why not take advantage now and save yourself loads of money? Because you figure you get, 14 PDFs for less than $21? Not bad. Not bad at all. Agile Monk is with us, as is Peaceful Porcupine and Tesco Love. Kevin R. Smith is popping on in. Says, Unknown Armies is what I wanted Mage the Ascension to be. Well. That's kind of curious. I will say that sometimes, speaking of Mage the Ascension, sometimes I'm confused by all of the various different, like, World of Darkness and like COD games out there. And of course, we've got different publishers, and it's like, oh, what? So, I don't know. This kind of looks kind of, interesting. Could be cool. Hey, at least you're not sinking a whole hell of a lot of money into it. So there is that. And Kevin R. Smith says they're in the same boat. They've definitely heard of the game, but they haven't heard anything about the mechanics. It's kind of funny too, because I get the impression based on these campaign starter kits that it could be kind of anything almost, because it seems as if some of these campaign starter kits are a little tongue-in-cheek, maybe don't take themselves all too seriously, and then others probably take themselves very seriously. I am intrigued, I must say. I'm more intrigued about Unknown Armies 3rd edition now that there's a bundle out there than I have been in the past when I've heard people mention it. So there is that. Let's move on to our next news piece, because following a successful crowdfunding run for Mythworks, the core rulebook for the last Caravan role-playing game has arrived in print. Here's the scoop. They came less than a year ago. The war was swift and brutal, The Last Caravan is a Cars and Aliens tabletop role-playing game for 2 to 6 players about a midwinter road trip in the wake of an alien invasion. You'll explore landscapes transformed by xenoflora, search abandoned towns and crashed spaceships, discover the otherworldly technology called harmonics, negotiate with newly formed factions, both human and alien, outrun hostile pursuers, and fight for the future of your world. Your story is about normal people finding heroism under extraordinary pressures. It's about relationships tested by a crisis and discovering what matters when the world is ending. Your people need you. Will you join the caravan? Fans of post-apocalyptic and survival games will find a robust, rules-light experience, a tense 6 to 10 session campaign featuring a unique road trip gameplay loop, horizontal progression, and engaging faction dynamics. Fiction-first role players will find a story world and system that develops deep interpersonal connections with relationship-focused character creation, a role-play-driven central mechanic, and powerful lore that will resonate and matter to characters. The 208-page hardcover with PDF is available now, carries an MSRP of $39.99. Now, I do recall sharing news of this when this was up for crowdfunding over on Kickstarter. I would be very curious about checking this out. For one, I'm really curious what the mechanics are, because I get the impression that the mechanics might be a little more board game-ish, maybe I should say, than, say, our typical role-playing game mechanics. So I'm curious. I really am curious, because this sounds really interesting, and it almost sounds as if not all of the aliens are evil. So, or at least not all of the aliens are trying to subjugate the Earth people. Now, I might be wrong, but there is mention of negotiating with humans and aliens. So maybe it's possibly that the alien invaders might have like another alien subservient race. That's a possibility, right? Could be. Could be. But yes, this is something that really has piqued my interest. No joke. It really has. And I'm also kind of interested in the whole concept of it being a nice 6 to 10 session campaign. So it's not too short, but it's also not too long. Kind of plotted out almost like a season of a television show these days. 8, 10 episodes, something like that. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. And the artwork looks pretty good. Kind of comic bookish. It's all right. Vorpal, Bite, and Mike. Almost sounds like that'd be like a cartoon. Yeah, it's over on Nickelodeon. Hey, what time is it? Oh, hey, Vorpal, Bite, and Mike is on. Hurry, get me the remote. Well, they are with us in chat. Welcome to you both. Final news piece. Available as Pay What You Want from Spiel Knights is the one-page dungeon compendium for 2024. Yeah, we're talking one pages of things tonight. This volume contains all the entries of this year's contest. It's a collection of dungeons with, as I mentioned, all of the 2024 one-page dungeon contest entries. Contains all the dangerous dungeons, exciting encounters, amazing adventures, and wonderful worlds. Each one is contained on a single page of the compendium. There are 112 entries to this year's contest, and you get the compiled compendium and a zip file, which will contain each of the individual entries. So you'll receive the following downloadable items: the full compendium, which contains all 112 submissions to the contest. There's also the 2024 Winner's Circle, which I will mention the images that you're seeing do come from the Winner's Circle, which, of course, contains the top scoring dungeons and honorable mentions. There are also youth entries. So these are the entries which were from young dungeon designers, as well as the source document zip file. All dungeon entries as submitted. By design, the dungeons are fairly system neutral to facilitate their use with your favorite rule system. The dungeons/adventures were produced by members of the gaming community as entries into the 2024 one-page dungeon contest and are licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. The orientation of entries, portrait, landscape, has been preserved within the PDF. And if you go over to DriveThruRPG, you'll see the entire compendium is available as a full-size preview. Once again, this is pay what you want. Proceeds will help keep the dungeon contest running, as well as help to fund prize pools for future years. And of course, it is available over at DriveThruRPG. I have never taken a look at the one-page dungeon contest winners or actually any of the entries in the past. Taking a look at some of these images, there's some pretty impressive looking stuff here for just, one page. Kind of like what you're looking at right now. That's really cool. And it's, granted, it's probably really sandboxy, but still, I think that's pretty wild. I think that's pretty cool. Nice. Shanbot V42 is with us and talking about The Last Caravan. Says this kind of reminds them of a combination of the Long Dark video game and the TV show The Colony. I would also say there's another video game. I actually started to play it where I'm trying to remember the title to it. Reason why I stopped playing was because it was sort of buggy, but it was essentially you had a car and it was a roguelite, and you had just a randomly created person, and you might have like a dog, or you might just be the person, or you might have another companion, and it was very tactical, and it was you trying to you would get through these little, almost like XCOM-ish layouts along your road trip. And as you went, the aliens got tougher. It was kind of interesting. It was kind of interesting. Like I said, I was playing it early in its development, and it was a little too buggy. Sometimes it'd be like, oh man, I'm like 3 squares from getting the car off of this map, and it would crash, and I'd be like, damn it. And remember, it's a roguelike, so you could reload it, but roguelites are like, okay, well, let's see how far I can get. There's some zombie games that are like that too. Shenbot B42 says, I know that game. I can also not remember the name. I know, it's weird. I got it. If I remember correctly, I think I got it in a humble bundle. Anyway, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, any of those One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Important to keep in mind. It helps keep thegaminggang.com around. I think sometimes people think, oh, well, that pays for like your equipment and stuff, your travels to conventions and that. It's like, no. It pays for the hosting of the website. That's about it. So just pointing that out. Of course, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find gaminggang.com or the channel, the outlet, you find it to be a valuable resource. Hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. And there are some folks out there who swing on by and make not small donations, such as our friends of the show, the Madman, Agile Monk, Kevin King, as well as Joshua Edwards. Those are just some of the folks who lately have popped on by paypal.me/thegaminggang. So big thank you to everybody out there. Use the banner ads. That's awesome. If you stop by paypal.me, that's awesome. If you can't do either of those, help us out by spreading the word. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Comment on our videos. That is one of the biggest things that people can do to help out the outlet, is to just comment on the videos and, not be like, hey, you asked me to comment. Because it shows engagement. And that's what really, tells the gods over at YouTube how to actually do things and share the video with people and so on and so forth. Peaceful Porcupine says the only roguelike they know is Adam. They missed the part where the thing was being described. It is a game where it's like an alien invasion, and they're almost kind of like plant-like, I guess I would say. It's not, well, it's sort of like the Triffids, a little bit. And you're trying to make it across country, and you have a map, and then it'll like track your movement. And then every so often you'll go to a scene, which is laid out almost like XCOM would be. And you're usually, you're trying to get across, but you also have to get fuel, weapons, food, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, it was pretty interesting. It was just a little buggy. Alona's Cave with a super chat for some soda. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. So tonight, I am going to talk about the Year Zero engine, which powers many of the Free League publishing role-playing games. I'm going to chat a little bit about something else, too, prior to that. But do want to mention tonight's brief intermission. I do have a movie trailer, and I'm kind of curious. Those of you out there who have seen the movie, and if you saw the movie when you were in your teens or early 20s, I can pretty much guarantee you engaged in kind of a game with your friends after you all had seen this movie, or even if most of you had seen this movie. Kind of curious if anyone's going to chime in chat what that mental exercise, I guess we'll say, would have been. So anyway, we will be talking about the Year Zero engine right after a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat. Yum, yum. It's a meal in itself. Our all-meat super dog. Enjoy one now.
Wouldn't a good hot cup of whipped hot chocolate taste great right now? Carnation's Cocoa Supreme, the delicious hot chocolate drink with the light, delicate flavor you like. Wouldn't a good hot cup taste good right now? Ask for a cup of whipped hot chocolate at our snack bar.
Want some Wilkins coffee with your strawberry shortcake?
Can't say that I do.
You can't say that you don't either.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time.
Not that room! Not that room!
Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
Dawn of the Dead.
Meet me on the roof at 9 o'clock. Getting out.
I don't believe
We're
it.
gonna
What?
get out in the chopper. We've got to survive. Somebody's got to survive.
They kill for one reason. They kill for food. They eat their victims.
Imagine, if you will, that something has gone terribly wrong.
Shoot it, man.
Now, accept the fact that there's no escaping the horrible consequences. George Romero brings back the dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
We must not be lulled by the concept that these are our family members or our friends. They are not. They will not respond to such emotions.
Operator dead. Post abandoned. We may never get out of the room. It's everywhere. What the hell is it?
Looks like a shopping center, one of those big indoor malls.
What are they doing? Why do they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory, what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
What is it?
We've got a war.
I'm afraid.
We have spawned our own savagery. Soon, it will consume us all. It is a horrible, hauntingly accurate vision of the mindless excesses of a society gone mad.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. Well, Dawn of the Dead, banned in 47 countries, or whatever it was. I still kind of remember the radio ad they would play for that as a midnight movie. And that is how I saw it, is at a midnight movie with my best friend, Elliot Miller. It was the summer between our freshman and sophomore years of high school. And our other friends had gone, they didn't go with us, but they had also gone, because I think it was like a 3-week run that they were doing it at this one theater that we would go to. And I will never forget. In fact, W. Forge says they will never see this film again because of that bite on the shoulder. I still remember sitting in the theater and that scene comes up. And of course, they cut it in the trailer. That happened. It was like, I looked at Elliot and I went, holy shit. We were like, oh, what have we gotten ourselves into? And then, watch the rest of the movie. You're like, I remember the end of the movie. I won't spoil it for those of you who have not seen it. Although I will admit, I think the remake with Sarah Polley is really, really well done. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And if you ever watch it, make sure you stay till the end. Watch through the credits. I remember talking to a few people asking, because they were like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. They're like, yeah, we rented it or whatever. And I would ask, oh, hey, did you watch it all the way through the credits? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, then you actually missed the end of the movie. But anyway, I remember watching that with Elliot, and the theater was full. It was midnight movie, early 80s. I mean, come on. Theaters were always packed with teenagers and that for a midnight movie. And I remember we were like, oh. Just like, oh man, oh, whoa. So I had mentioned, if you saw Dawn of the Dead as a teenager or in your early 20s, and you had friends who were with, or you knew had seen it or whatever, the game you tend to play, or I will also say it, the mental exercise that you engage in after you have seen it, for almost everyone, is, what would you do? Right? What would you do if that happened? And I remember it was Elliot and I want to say our friend Daryl, and I think a couple other people, we were hanging out and that topic came up. And it was, what if we were up in Wisconsin? So, we lived in Chicago. What if we were up in Wisconsin and we went camping and all this, broke out and we didn't know about it until we were on our way home? What would you do? And it was funny because we never went camping. So it was like, I don't know where we came up with that idea. So if we went camping, because none of us actually go camping. So it was funny. I remember Elliot was like, oh, I'd have to go, check out I'd have to go get my parents and all that. I was like, no. I'm like, me personally, I was like, my assumption has to be they're gone. They're either, my family's either deceased or now they're undead, or they've fled. So no, I'd be like, nah, survival mode, folks. But yeah, it was kind of funny. I seem to recall all my other friends were like, no, I'd have to go see if, my parents were okay, or my girlfriend's all right. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no, because it's like, you're going to end up getting killed. Here's something we always like to talk about. I like to bring up. See, remember, I said we're going to talk about the Year Zero engine, but there was something else I kind of wanted to talk about, and this is it, actually. It's a zombie apocalypse, right? It's a zombie apocalypse for a reason. If all of us survived, because everybody thinks, oh yeah, yeah, I be a survivor? No, no, you wouldn't. I wouldn't. I might make it for a little bit, probably a little longer than your average bear, but no, they're going to get me, or I'm going to do myself in before. Although, if it's like The Walking Dead, it doesn't really matter because it's in all of our systems anyway, at least in that, that setting. So it doesn't matter if you're bitten by a zombie or not, or a walker or not, you're going to turn after you die. But I'm kind of curious how many of you out there actually did engage in that mental exercise with your friends after seeing Dawn of the Dead, or really any zombie film when you were in your teens. Pete Recklich says, I would love a suit of armor in this situation. What was the movie that there was somebody wearing a suit of armor? There was a zombie movie where somebody was in a suit of armor. Oh, man, I can't remember. Michael Burrell is with us, as Romero was a genius. Yeah. Sadly, his last, two Dead movies, especially the last one. And it was so weird because you would have thought George A. Romero would have been able to have secured funding, to do like a big budget kind of movie a la World War Z, right? Something along those lines. Now, but it was kind of, I do remember Diary of the Dead. That was okay. That was all right. And it's funny because George A. Romero always wanted his zombie movies to say more about our values in our society than just simply be a movie about the dead coming back to life and eating the living. So Alan Rowe asks, favorite zombie role-playing game? And by all means, other people in chat, jump in on this. I would say, it's funny. You may, if you followed the gaming gang, you may have realized I never reviewed the core rule book for The Walking Dead. I reviewed the starter set. I did not review the core rule book. I shared a first look at it. And the reason behind it is because I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. For one, I didn't think it captured The Walking Dead as far as the television series, because that's the universe that was licensed. It wasn't licensed off the comic book. It was licensed off of the AMC show. And I still didn't think that it captured it well enough. So I will say I didn't review it because I didn't like it. And I didn't like it quite a lot. So, and I'm not one of these people who is like, I want to get out there and be like, because I did. I wouldn't say I tore into the starter set, but I did point out that I thought the starter set contained very little and it was very overpriced. Tell you what was an interesting zombie RPG. My God, we might end up turning this into a zombie role-playing game topic as opposed to Year Zero engine. Oh, it's not even 8. We're good. So, as far as zombie role-playing games, the first edition of Outbreak Undead, there was clunk in it. There were a lot of clunky elements to it. But I thought it captured the survival aspects pretty well. And I also liked the fact that it was not necessarily, oh, hey, you get to play as yourself. because if you were playing as yourself, you were zombie chow. I mean, that's the reality, right? Come on. Like I said, it can't be a zombie apocalypse if we all survive. But one thing that it did really focus on was who would survive in these sorts of situations. And it would be law enforcement. It would be first responders if they weren't responding, because you would think the first responders would be the ones who would get tagged right away, right? Because they're responding to these emergencies and be like, oh, well, what the hell just bit me? So I did like that. I have not taken a look at All Flesh Must Be Eaten. People always bring that up. I see that it was brought up in chat. Willona's Cave says they always wanted to try Zombier World by Magpie Games. I'll take a guess. It's probably powered by the apocalypse. Sarah D says she holds no illusions about her ability to survive a zombie apocalypse. Yeah, like I said, I mean, just for one, if you depend on medication, and folks out there who depend on medication that needs to be refrigerated, big trouble in Little China with that. Pete Drakulich says, you got to read the Zombie Survival Guide. I swear it's great. I think the dude who wrote World War Z wrote it. Yes, you are correct. It is Max Brooks. And I actually met Max Brooks at a comic convention in Chicago and stood there talking to him for about 10 minutes. And it was really weird because nobody knew who he was. And he was promoting the book World War Z. And I knew him from the Zombie Survival Guide. And of course, I also knew that he was the son of Mel Brooks, the great Mel Brooks. And I had also known that Max Brooks had been, trying to remember, the reason why he wrote Zombie Survival Guide is because he was actually one of these sorts of government experts who were like disaster response, who would research that kind of stuff. So that is why you got the Zombie Survival Guide, which does kind of have a bit of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to it. World War Z does not. And speaking of World War Z, if you can get your hands on the unabridged audiobook version of it, it is excellent. And it's got quite a lot of big name stars. Well, okay, maybe not A-list stars, but I mean, it's got a lot of well-known actors and actresses who are reading the various different chapters. One of them is Mark Hamill. One of them, if I remember correctly, is Ellen Alda. I'm trying to remember. But I mean, it's really good. It is really good. All right, let's see what's going on in chat here. So yeah, to answer your question about what's my favorite zombie role-playing game, I don't know enough about him to really say, well, this one's my favorite. I like this one the best. I can tell you, like I said, didn't like the Walking Dead universe. Sorry. Womp womp. And I thought Outbreak Undead, the first edition of it, had some interesting concepts to it. One of the problems was the artwork throughout was awful. And I'm not a bullshitter. I just, sometimes I should probably, keep my mouth shut. But I was meeting somebody after like the exhibit hall closed at Gen Con one year. And I was meeting them at just a bar, and they wanted to discuss me covering their company or whatever. And I was sitting there, and they weren't there yet. And I was sitting at the bar, obviously having an adult beverage. And this guy came up to me, and he said, "Hey, aren't you Jeff from the gaming gang?" And I said, "Yeah." And he introduced himself, and he was the guy behind Outbreak Undead. And when I did the review, I said the artwork was just awful. I mean, painful to look at. This is a written review. You can go over to thegaminggang.com and read it. And he said, "Well, the whole thing was, it was supposed to be like people, like their journal and somebody like sketching stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it. I understand that, but it looks like shit." I was like, "It's awful." And the thing is, I said, gamers want artwork. I'm like, I could see if you threw a couple of those things in, but it was like you had your 12-year-old sketch stuff. And I was like, yeah, it was like all pencils kind of stuff. I was like, oh, awful, just awful. And he said, "Well, we're going to be doing a second edition of it." And he said, yeah, he said, "Thanks a lot." He said, "Because we are going to abandon that design philosophy and go more along the lines of what you're talking about. It's like, now we got to pay for art." I'm like, if the artwork's pretty good, I'm like, you'll probably end up covering that in the sales that you'll make. And I guess now it's with Hunters. What are they now? Hunters Entertainment. But it's distributed by Renegade Game Studios, which is, on my shit list. So I don't talk about stuff from them. But I did not have an opportunity to really check out the second edition of it. Because once again, I had also mentioned that not only was the artwork, mechanically, if I remember correctly, I think it used a percentile system, but it was a little clunky. Not terrible, but a little clunky. Shanbot V42 says, "Damn right, Jeff. Not many people know that." Oh, about Max Brooks. Agile Monk says, "Zombie survival guide is your key to survival against the hordes of undead who may be stalking you right now." GameCat is with us. Good to see you, GameCat. Infected RPG by Immersion Studios is worth a look if you want a post-zombie apocalypse recovery-themed game. I gotta say, I have always heard like all flesh must be eaten. I don't know if it's supported nowadays, but there were a lot of splat books for it back in the day. And I think there are a lot of setting books for it too. In fact, I saw it. I want to say I remember reading the PDF for the rule book. I don't know if I reviewed it or not. And I may have. And I do recall that there were like quite a few different settings that you could utilize. So I was like, oh, okay. Agile Monk says, "Jeff is not a BSer. He's a man of strong opinion and attitude." I don't know about the attitude part, but I tend to, I call it as I see it. I mean, I am diplomatic, but, and I think the only reason why it was more like, yeah, well, the artwork's shit, was because this guy was kind of busting my chops about it. And it was like, dude, I didn't make it. I didn't create it. You did. So, Kathy Evans says, "We were playing Monster Hunters RPG with friends. The zombie survival dude came in handy for it." Very nice. Very nice. Agile Monk with the super chat. I want to make it clear Jeff is going to give you his very direct opinion on things, so don't ask. You can't handle Jeff's radical honesty. I don't know if it's radical, but yes. W. Forge says Zombie Road is a new game out on Backer Kit. Involves player characters having to travel to a site where one player is the cure and one player is a traitor. I would think that would work better as a board game. You ever notice that? Traitor mechanics tend to work better in board games than they do in role-playing games. I think it's well, I guess it would probably be all right if you did that with something that was obviously a one-shot or just a really short campaign of just a handful of sessions. But when I had an opportunity to play role-playing games, which even back in the 80s was rare. Rarely was I the player. There were a few chances I got. I remember playing, and one of our friends was also playing, but kind of separately. We didn't really adventure together in it. And we did end up playing a couple of adventures together. And the game master and that person had kind of plotted my downfall, but the dice were hot that day. So I was like, oops. Womp, womp, womp. W. Forge says both players keep their roles a secret. Yeah, I'd assume that. In board games, same thing. If you have a traitor mechanic, nobody outside of the traitor knows that they are the traitor. Yeah, that could be kind of interesting. Like I said, I don't know as far as, having a traitor in a role-playing game. Like I said, I don't think it's as effective as in board games. All right, so tonight's topic's fairly short anyway, so it's not as if it's like, geez, Jeff, when are you going to get into the Year Zero engine stuff? But I did want to talk a little bit about the Year Zero engine, which powers many of the Free League Publishing role-playing games. It's funny. I had originally posted when I shared earlier on social media and that I was going to have this as a topic. I had said created by Free League Publishing. But the thing is, I don't think Free League Publishing created it, because I thought Mutant Year Zero was actually created by a different company. Now, I might be wrong, because I have not covered a lot of Mutant Year Zero. I did a review of the core book, and that's about it over the years. So not real up on Mutant Year Zero as far as the history of it. So I might have been incorrect when I said, created by Free League Publishing. That's why I've said, it powers many of the Free League Publishing role-playing games. Now, off the top of my head, it powers Forbidden Lands, obviously Mutant Year Zero, because that's where the Year Zero engine originates, the title itself. Alien, the role-playing game. Blade Runner, the role-playing game. Vaesen. It's weird. You know what? I hear this pronounced multiple different ways. I've heard Vaesen, Vaesen, and Vesen. That's why I kind of just go with Vaesen. Vaesen, Vaesen, Vaesen. It's the late 19th century horror role-playing game. I like this game. I mean, it's not my go-to horror role-playing game, obviously enough, but one of the things I really like about it is because it really does have a specific vibe to it. Yes, Twilight 2000 is Year Zero engine with a twist. And I'll talk about that as well. W Forge mentioned that. I was going to mention Twilight 2000. But I was going to say the creatures, the fae, the Vessen, they're not evil. They're not good. They exist. And, a lot of times, some of them are doing very bad things and they are evil. But as a whole, you can't be like, oh, yeah, well, trolls are all good or trolls are all evil or anything along those lines. And that's one of the things I really like. The other thing I really enjoy about the role-playing game of the late night Basin is that most of the adventures have kind of a bittersweet ending to them. I would have to say that you would have to be this is definitely not a game that's designed for like the 15-year-olds out there. No offense, 15-year-olds out there playing role-playing games, but this really isn't aimed at them. So anyway, yes, this is another Forbidden Lands is the player's book. This is another, I really also like Forbidden Lands. So, Agile Monk was talking about some lag. Okay, the funny thing is, I should have mentioned this when we started. It seems that all day long, YouTube has been having problems. So earlier, I went to go check something out, and it wasn't my internet. YouTube was coming up like website can't be found. And I was like, what? And then I went like to Google. Google was fine. I went to MLB.com. That was fine. So we already know when there's problems with YouTube, it means it's problems with the stream. So my apologies. Hopefully you're not getting hammered with the advertising like we have been for the past few streams. I went and tracked down a way to maybe cut down on that. I don't know if it worked. Hopefully you are seeing some ads. You'll have to let me know in chat. But hopefully it's not like every 3 minutes. Like I think it's been doing a couple of 2-3 late, streams as of late. Kevin R. Smith says they played Forbidden Lands in a con game once. It was fun, but brutal. It is supposed to be old school with the Year Zero engine. So, GameCat said their Vessen game ended last night. Nordic Darkly. They got scared, then traumatized. Good times. Keldon's with us in chat, says Mutant Year Zero is a 4-game universe itself. Yes. The core books, interestingly enough, all focus on specific things, which I thought was very cool. I thought that was very, very cool. Kevin R. Smith says Instructo Boy reviewed all the Vessen adventures. He said 17 Swedish people gave him 17 different pronunciations. I believe it. I believe that. Yes. So what's up with the Year Zero engine? Because we are seeing more third-party publishers or third-party creators designing things for Mutant Year Zero. We have seen some Kickstarters as of late for role-playing games which utilize the Year Zero engine. And I'm sure there are folks out there who are kind of curious, well, what's the deal with that? Why are people suddenly adopting the Year Zero engine? And of course, part of it obviously is fallout from the open game license fiasco. We know that with other game systems, there has become more interest, and not only more interest in those game systems, but more interest in designing for game systems that are not 5e. Because people are concerned, well, what happens if I create something that people like and people buy, and then suddenly, okay, oh no, that's ours now. You're using our SRD. Sarah D says, I don't see ads. And don't worry, Jeff. It's because Mr. Eddie pays for YouTube Premium. Well, that's very nice of him. So, as far as the core mechanics of the Year Zero engine and what makes it popular, first of all, is it's very easy to wrap your head around. Now, granted, the games that do use the engine utilize it a little bit differently, but at its core, it's the same. It's rolling a die, looking to get a particular number or higher for success. And it is a dice pool mechanic because normally you will have more than one die to roll. If you're not like at a disadvantage or things are going badly or things along those lines, you will have more than simply one die. So for the most part, most of the games utilize a 6-sided die. So right there, that is going to increase some popularity because we do know that there are gamers in other countries that don't have the easy access to polyhedral dice that they do with just regular old 6-sided dice. So that does add to the, let's say, universal appeal of a game system that uses 6-sided dice. So what you'll have is you'll have your attributes, and then you will have skills. And then what you will do is you will have a number which represents how many dice you roll for your attribute. And depending on the system, it might be, you might have a strength of 2, which is actually halfway decent, right? That might be average, might be a little above average. And then you will have your skill, which would be another number that will give you additional dice. So as an example, and I'm just pulling this out of the air, if you had strength of 2 and you had melee combat 1, well, if you were engaged in melee combat, then you would be rolling 3 dice. And for the most part, you're usually just looking for 1 6 in order to succeed. Combat tends to be a little different. Combat tends to come in where in some of the games, whoever's got the most successes between the attacker and defender, then, if the defender has more successes than the attacker, then they don't take damage, and so on and so forth. So combat tends to be a little trickier. So some people might think there's no crunch really in the Year Zero engine, but there is. But once again, it's going to depend on the game. So Twilight 2000, as an example, is considered the Year Zero engine, but it doesn't only use 6-sided dice. So it uses 4-sided, 6-sided, 8-sided, and 10-sided. I don't think it uses the 12, if I remember correctly. I don't think it uses the 12. And then, of course, you're looking at that. And then for combat with Twilight 2000, there is a lot going on. So you're looking at, as far as like your armor penetration and things like that. So the number of successes that you get in combat equate to a lot of different things. So as far as my opinion goes, I think Twilight 2000 is probably the most complex of the Year Zero engine driven games. Tales from the Loop. Yeah, that is also a Year Zero engine. I would think Tales from the Loop and Things from the Flood have got to be on the lower crunch. So Keldon says Blade Runner uses the die step mechanics with multiple sided dice. Yeah, like Twilight 2000. If I remember right, I think it's the same. You got to remember, I have so many role playing games that I'm in the midst of reading and doing reviews of and things like that. There are times I will misspeak as far as mechanics, especially stuff that I have not looked at anytime recently. But as far as the Year Zero engine and adapting it for other genres and other settings, it is pretty universal. It is pretty generic because if you think about it, it's pretty easy for you to, and it could be, you could do 4 attributes if you want. You can do the traditional 6 attributes if you want. And what will normally happen is with your skills, you're going to add the number from the attribute that's associated with that skill. Easy peasy. As far as like opposed roles, normally it's who gets the most successes. But if it's strictly a pass, fail, succeed, fail sort of task that's being performed, normally, once again, kind of depends on which game you're playing. Normally, just 1 success. That's it. Now, there are modifiers that could give you additional dice. There's modifiers that might deduct dice. A lot of times with most of the mutant, see, I keep wanting to say Mutant Year Zero engine because it's from Mutant Year Zero. In most of the Year Zero engine games that I'm aware of, you will usually get additional dice when other characters help with something. So you've got that. But like I said, the Year Zero engine, it's just really easy for people to grasp. And even the systems that are a little crunchier, because when we get into like Alien, the role-playing game, then we start getting into stress, which is actually kind of interesting. It's in the Walking Dead universe role-playing game too, the stress mechanic. And that's kind of cool, where it's like you're getting stress and you're more likely, sometimes you're more likely to screw up because you're stressed out. But it is also possible, because you're so stressed out, you focus way more. And I am curious to see what they do with the second edition of Alien, the role-playing game. It is still going to be, excuse me, I need to wet my whistle here. As far as I understand, it's still going to be Year Zero engine. I sort of have a feeling that they might lean into the Twilight 2000 Year Zero engine. It's just an impression I have. I don't know. I have no inside dope about it. But I do believe the second edition of Coriolis, which is on the horizon, which looks pretty interesting. I think they're going more for kind of a mothership vibe to the new edition of Coriolis. I think they're aiming for more a little bit of a space horror vibe to it than the previous edition, because the previous edition was kind of more epic science fiction. Kind of, I know a lot of people refer to it as Arabian Nights in space. Visually, yes, I would say that it had a lot of Middle Eastern influence to it. Gameplay wise, not really. Actually, the first edition of Coriolis was pretty cool. Pretty decent. Anyway, but I do believe they're going to stick more to the traditional six-sided die for the second edition of it's Coriolis something dark. I don't even think they're calling it Coriolis second edition. I think the big dark, nah, that's not right. It's something dark, or the dark something. But Shanbot V42 says it looks like a dungeon delve with corruption mechanics, high risk, high reward. There you go. The great dark. Thank you. I knew it was something dark. Yeah, the big dark. That sounds kind of stupid. Yeah, we're going to play some Coriolis, the big dark. Where are you guys going? Come back. Keldis says, weird they're going sci-fi horror with that, considering they have aliens. Yeah, in a second edition of that, they're going to kickstart. Well, you know, you got to think about it too. They had Forbidden Lands, or I should say they haven't gotten rid of it. And they released some expansions, some supplements for that were pretty well done. I like the bestiary. I thought the bestiary was really nice. I like the artwork too. I thought that was pretty cool. But I know I have heard that there is going to be, you know, more content that comes out for Forbidden Lands. I don't know. I honestly don't know about that. Maybe in PDF, possibly. And of course, there is the third party licensing that they do as far as like on Drive-Thru RPG and stuff like that. I think their focus is more on Dragonbane than anything else. Dragonbane is not the Year Zero engine. So that's one of the games that Free League Publishing does. It's not. The One Ring is also not Year Zero engine. So, and of course, Lord of the Rings role-playing is built on the 5e SRD. So obviously enough, that's not either. I like the Year Zero engine. I think it is a solid base mechanic to build off of. Dice pools are pretty easy for people to figure out. People like rolling a bunch of dice. I'll be the first to say that I am not a fan of rolling like heaping handfuls of dice. To me, that's kind of a pain in the ass. But, you know, 5, 6 dice, yeah, sweet. Oh, man, this is going to work. This is going to work. I'm rolling 6 dice. I just need to get a 5 or a 6. See, that's something else that you get in some of the Year Zero engine is it's not only a 6 that succeeds, but yeah, I mean, yeah, people dig that. People are like, oh, I get 4 dice. Oh, I'm rolling 4 dice. Nice. So kind of like that. And then once again, it's super easy for people to wrap their head around what they need to do to succeed. Oh, I need a 6. Okay, great. And it's similar in some ways, like Savage Worlds, where Savage Worlds does not use a dice pool, but it uses a target number, which makes it very easy for people. Oh, I need to roll a 7. Okay. 7 or better. Okay. So pretty easy. Pretty cool. Agile Monk says Dragonbane is a huge cash cow and massive success for Free League publishing. And that's why I guess Agile Monk is insinuating that's why we're not really going to see much, or at least I don't think either that we're going to see a whole lot for Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands, I wouldn't be shocked to maybe see go elsewhere, because I think it was not designed by the core team at Free League Publishing. I don't think Tomas Hanenstam was a huge presence with Forbidden Lands. I might be wrong. I don't know. It's not like I went and looked at the credits page a moment ago. I didn't. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. But if we're going to talk about Free League for just a moment here, they changed their marketing person. Well, okay, I take that back. They no longer have a marketing person. They're using an outside marketing agency. And the reason why I have not shared any review of the Electric State is because I requested a review copy of it. I haven't gotten it. I have not gotten it. And I got another email discussing the Electric State. So essentially what you have to do is you have to go to a website and fill out the request form and stuff like that, which I did originally back in early September, and then didn't see it. I know there are very small outlets out there that have already shared video coverage of the physical book. I think a couple of them been out like for a couple of weeks. So I don't know. But you know, I actually reached out to this marketing company and was like, what's going on here? Because I have a great relationship with Free League Publishing. I don't need some outside agency fucking that up. Once again, as I said, I'm pretty transparent, right? I didn't say fuck up. But I did point out, I'm like, what's going on here? I requested a review copy of this. I always get everything from Free League Publishing. I'm the guy who got Twilight 2000, the only copy of Twilight 2000 that was in the United States, to take home from Gen Con to shoot video and do a review of. So, they respect the outlet. They like my coverage. So I was like, what the hell is going on? It's like, anyway, something else that I did want to mention, which, it was actually what I was going to mention before I started talking about this marketing company, is I'm hoping Free League Publishing isn't getting stretched too thin, because they've got their irons in a lot of fires at the moment. So fingers crossed. We should have that new Blade Runner book come out. So GameCat says, if they had to rank them all individually, Blade Runner's dice mechanic would float to the top of the Year Zero engine games. I could see that. I could certainly see that. I would say seeing that as I've gotten older, I've mentioned this before, I've tried to get a little more rules light. That's why when I did my first look at Chivalry and Sorcery 5th edition, which really does look interesting. If you haven't checked out the first look video, by all means, give it a peek. But as I was looking through it, I was like, oh, yeah, this would not be on my game table. Because I don't want that sort of crunch. As soon as I start seeing derived attributes and there's more than like 3, I'm like, okay. But it could be very cool. But yeah, I would say, yeah, probably the way your Zero engine is implemented in this, or even Mutant Year Zero, where it originates from. I mean, that is the Year Zero engine at its core. I mean, that's where it originates. That is the mechanics. I think that would probably be my favorite. Shanbot V42 says, by the way, Jeff, that survival game you were talking about, was it perchance called Overland? Yes, it was. That is exactly what it was. You caravan across the U.S. in a post-apocalyptic road trip, fighting creatures and rescuing survivors. I think you don't really caravan, because if I remember right, you only have one vehicle. But you can get vehicles that have more space in them. But I don't recall it being, then again, I didn't get too far in it. So Shanbot B42 said they heard some backers had yet to receive copies of The Electric State. That is not good, because it is for sale on online retailers, isn't it? Well, Gleamwood RX is popping in as we're getting ready to wrap up. Good to see you. So, Peaceful Porcupine says, I've never worked with Year Zero engine. My latest worry is the non-combat tasks more interesting than a binary check, because we know combat is detailed. All depends. So for the most part, if it is non-opposed, most of the games that use Year Zero engine that I'm aware of their mechanics, that I at least remember, right? We can't sit here. I can't tell you, okay, so specifically in Blade Runner, because it's been a long time since I've taken a peek at that. And, I'm in the midst of looking at all these other role-playing games too. So, but for the most part, if it's strictly pass-fail, success-failure, it's just the single die. I know I seem to recall some systems where if it's a longer process, there would be multiple die rolls. But I can't recall which game it was that I remember seeing that. And then again, I might just be imagining this. But for the most part, unopposed challenges or tasks is just a simple roll of success. Now, sometimes there are systems where you need more than one success, or the number of successes that you do roll is going to determine the quality of your success. So we do have that too. So, all righty. So just a little bit of a discussion about the Year Zero engine, which once again powers many of the role-playing games from Free League Publishing. So tomorrow, I am going to discuss the future of the gaming gang, as well as not only the website, but also the channel, the YouTube channel, and the live stream. So I'm going to be discussing that as our topic tomorrow. So unless something incredible happens where it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's going to be the topic. I got a couple of things on my mind that I probably want to get out there. And, it'll be open to discussion. But that will be on tomorrow's show. All righty, then. That is it for this time out, though. So if you were watching live, thank you very much for taking time out to catch the show. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because not only did you keep me company, you were keeping each other company along the way. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for watching any of the nearly 2,000 videos on the channel. Of course, as I mentioned, I will be back tomorrow. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. And of course, if you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on YouTube. I'll also tell you when I share other videos, such as today's first look at Lands of RuneQuest Dragon Pass from Chaosium Inc. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.